the most difficult part of business is when you know that you cannot make payroll on Friday, and you just know you have no money, the money's not coming in, and how do you look at the employees, because you know that you either have to lay them off or tell them, hey, I don't have money for this payroll, or a 20% discount. And I will never forget those days. It was 20 plus years ago when we went through those periods, and it was a very, very challenging time. It's almost better to go out of business than to be in business and to look the employees in the face and say, I can't pay you, And so for that matter, and I remember a lot of the employees said, God, Scott never even talks to us anymore. I couldn't even talk to the employees because I knew that most likely I would have to lay them off this Friday or the next Friday. So
welcome to the My SGV podcast.
So I grew up here and I still live in Alhambra.
I was raised in between Temple City and Alhambra.
Eventually resided in South San Gabriel.
Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley.
Monterey Park has pretty much been my whole life.
Well, I'm proud to say that I was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley.
We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you are from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome. All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for spending this time with us. For you, it's been a week. For us, it has been nearly 3 months, Scott, since we've actually been in here in the studio.
That's right. June 25th
yes,
was the last date.
And that's funny how it's seamless on that other end, right? But for us,
right? Yeah. It's this will probably air like in
February. I
think.
Oh,
yeah. So it's got a little bit of time.
Okay, yeah,
great.
But that's how we work it.
Yeah.
One
of my favorite foods. I'm sad that you don't also appreciate it because it's not something that we can share together. I mean, although we do share Korean barbecue, love for Korean barbecue together, but you don't particularly enjoy sushi, right?
No, I love Japanese food, but I don't eat sushi other than shrimp and tuna.
I mean, I love sushi. If you read the newsletter, you know that I love sushi. Right. I do a monthly review on sushi spots in the San Gabriel Valley, and I really love sushi. I don't know what story I want to share here. I have so many sushi stories, but the one that's related to this guest, I used to go to this place when I was in college all the time, like because it was the only sushi that I could afford to eat weekly, right? And I would go there right when it opened, and oftentimes it was only me and the owner there. And he was still doing all his work, for the day, prep and everything. And he wasn't very much of a chatterbox either. And he would wait for me to make my selection. And at that time, he would serve me sushi rice too, right? So I would order the fish, he would cut it, and I was like, hey, can I get some sushi rice? And he would kind of grumble sometimes, right? And he would hold up this tray, and he's like, is that enough? And I'm like, no, a little bit more. And he would grumble again. I don't know why, because maybe he didn't sell the sushi rice. Maybe he thought I was eating too much rice. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But he would always make this face, and it was always this sort of dance, right? And one day on his freezer, he had this huge mirror. I would say it's maybe 4 by 5 foot mirror with 6-inch wood trim. It was a beveled mirror, and the wood was carved and gold paint. And I was like, wow, that's a really nice mirror. Whose is it? And I asked him about it, and he's like, oh, I don't use it. I was like, can I have it? He said no. I was like, well, why not? It's just sitting there, right? That's I had this relationship with him, and then I don't know how much time passed, and I finished college, and I told him, I said, hey, I'm interviewing for Tokyo Marine tomorrow. And if you don't know, Tokyo Marine is the oldest and largest Japanese insurance company. And he was kind of excited about that. And he said, if you get the job, I'll give you the mirror. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And so I went and I got the job. That was my first job out of college. And I told him, and he gave me the mirror.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Really? And how big is it?
It's quite large. It's quite large. It's very heavy. I would say it's maybe 30 pounds.
And that is the owner of the restaurant that we're talking about today, right?
Not quite a restaurant, but I would say it's more like a landmark in the San Gabriel Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but before that, I wanted to thank our supporters of the show, Paris Baguette in San Gabriel. They provide the delicious treats for our guests every episode. Thank you so much, Paris Baguette. Be sure to check them out on Las Tunas in San Gabriel. Say hi to Jason for us. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Today's guest took over one of the most cherished institutions in the San Gabriel Valley, a place that has been serving the finest sashimi and sushi for over 4 decades. Not just another sushi spot, it's a landmark. Known for its authentic Japanese offerings, Yama Seafood has long been the go-to for people who know their fish, and under his leadership, it's only gotten better. He didn't just step into a legacy, he enhanced it, introducing new ideas while honoring the foundation laid by the original owner. With a background in retail and an eye for detail, he's expanded the reach of this beloved market, opening locations in West LA and soon to be K-Town, bringing in artisanal sake, handcrafted sushi, and unique Japanese products you can't find anywhere else. Not to worry, this man is all about preserving what makes Yama special, the quality, the freshness, and that personal touch that keeps people coming back. Today, we're excited to talk with the main man behind the next chapter of Yama Seafood, Scott Kohno. Scott, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, the guy I was speaking to was Yama-san.
That's correct. Yamada-san, very famous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And does that like sort of match his personality as you know him?
100%. Yama, there's so many stories about Yama-san. He is, our community loves him. And then on the other side, he is well known for his antics. You know, in the Yelp reviews, they would call him the sushi Nazi, and his son Roy would translate the Yelp, reviews, and he was very offended. He said, "I'm not a Nazi," But Roy explained, this is not a derogatory, term. It's the fact that you're so interesting and strict on your quality and standards that you have a very fine window of what you can and cannot do, and so he is very famous for that.
Yeah. Nozawa was also known as the
Yes.
sushi Nazi.
Yeah.
And Yama-san used to tell me, like, they would all meet at LA Cold Storage in the morning and they would all just talk over.
That's correct. It's interesting because Yama and Nozawa-san and even Nobu, Nobu-san, Matsuhisa, was one of the founders, really, of the LA sushi scene back 40 years ago. And so I say that they were really the forefront and the window for sushi and sushi bars in North America. Mr. Kanai of Mutual Foods really introduced sushi to the LA palate, California palate. And but it was these individuals, like Yama-san, all these Nozawa and Nobu, Matsuhisa, that were really the pioneers of sushi in LA and I think in North America.
Yeah, that place has a very special meaning to me and the San Gabriel Valley at large. And I'm glad that it's been passed on to someone who's taken such great care of it. The show is really about you, though, right?
Mm-hmm,
and
sure.
so let's start with that. What's your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I met my current wife, Wendy, and she lived in Monterey Park. And so we started dating. I actually grew up in West Los Angeles, where our second store is located, but I grew up in West LA. And at that time, for some reason, driving from West LA to Monterey Park seemed like a long drive. I don't know. And so we would only date once a week. And so it's kind of, I just told my wife this week, I said, that's probably one of the reasons why we stayed together so long, because we only saw each other once a week. But once we got married, we knew that we had to locate in the San Gabriel Valley because of the main thing is the babysitting that was right at our disposal with her parents living in Monterey Park. So 35 years later, we have lived in San Gabriel Valley and love it here. So that's the whole connection.
Where did you said you met in high school?
Yes, high school.
How does that happen when you meet, you living in West LA and you meet a woman from San Gabriel Valley?
Exactly. So we were all part of the Japanese Buddhist church scene. She was a member of Nishi Honganji, the Buddhist temple in downtown LA. And I was a member of West LA Buddhist church. And at the time, we were both presidents of our organization. So we had socials and get-togethers, and that's how we got together.
I see. And so you moved to the San Gabriel Valley.
Yes.
And do you have family with her?
Children?
Children, yes.
Oh, yes. I have 2 children. They both attended schools right here in San Gabriel Valley, San Marino High School. So my daughter, and they're both active in the business too. My daughter Remy and my son Trenton, both went to school here in San Gabriel.
You obviously are in the sushi business now, right? But when did you enter that?
Well, we've been in the food business for quite some time. But this particular business, we took over from Yama-san, exactly 3 years ago. So that's when we entered this particular business.
Oh, and what type of business had you been in before?
Well, we've had different food ventures. My background is in retail. I had ran a retail consulting company for many, many years. So we touched many retail brands, some quite famous, some national brands. And we actually opened up our own food concepts, one in Singapore called Brewworks. It's a brew pub. And one in Pasadena called Boomerang. It was a place where you can cook on a hot rock. And so that was our kind of first experiences with food.
When was that?
The Boomerang was, I guess the kids were about 5. So it must have been a good 25 years ago. 25 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Where was that?
It was at the corner of Union and Raymond and Union.
Okay.
In Old Town, Pasadena.
Yeah, you were in Old Town.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a different Old Town than it is today.
It was, well, exactly, but it was still on the new part of, Old Pasadena.
So I have heard a lot about Yama Seafood.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the correct name?
It is now called Yama Sushi Marketplace, just to better define it. But yeah, originally it was called Yama Seafood, correct.
So what is it about it that really makes it stand apart? I hear a lot about the owner. I guess he was the founder.
Yes.
And he was somewhat, as you mentioned before, maybe somewhat eccentric, but he was a leader in this area of sushi.
Exactly.
Bringing it to the market, right?
Yeah, so his background is he was a fish broker before, and so he would actually be able to source the best cuts of fish and sell it to his customers, whether it's at restaurants or stores or whatever. He opened up Yama Seafood exactly 40 years ago, exactly. Okay. And so he was guaranteed the best cuts of fish because he had all the connections of the major fish importers. And so because of that, our fish is the freshest, delivered daily, and it's guaranteed the best cuts because we're one of the biggest buyers of fish in Los Angeles. So because of that, we're guaranteed the best fish. And so people come to us for the freshness of the sashimi and fish and, of course, the sushi that goes along with it.
So as I think back, it was about that time that sushi first started making its appearance in the general market, right?
Yeah, it was very difficult. My personal experience with sushi is that, or with rice balls, is that when I was in elementary school, my mother made me a rice ball, onigiri, and it was wrapped in foil. And I remember, I guess I was about second grade or so. And I remember taking that out at the lunch table with all my friends. And when I opened it up, my friends would say, "Oh, gross! What is that?" And I loved the rice because it had a black nori, seaweed around it. And I told my mother, I said, please don't give me that anymore. It's so embarrassing, And I remember, and then for every New Year or shogatsu, my job is to make the futomaki, which is the big fat sushi. And I remember telling my parents, I said, this is a long time ago, 50, or I guess almost 50 years ago. I said, sushi will never be successful in the United States. I told them that because it's impossible. Who's going to eat raw fish? Everyone gets grossed out by my sushi. And I said, it'll never, and here we are. We're in the sushi business.
And it is such a popular item.
Yeah.
I suppose nationwide.
Yes.
I know, in the big cities it is, but do you know that seafood sushi is popular in the smaller towns?
Yes, all over the United States. We have traveled to small towns, and there are sushi restaurants, sushi bars all over the United States, and all through the world, really.
And
Canada, Mexico.
can you
all over.
critique those small town sushi restaurants?
Yeah, you can always tell, what they're doing, but all the sushi is made for their own liking for the local customers. So it's really, wide open for what you could do with sushi these days. So it's a very flexible product.
I remember there was a big discussion recently about Tokyo versus or Kyoto sushi and whether there could actually be sushi from Kyoto. But what was sort of the genesis of that and of that discussion? And
it sort of erupted on social media, right? Like our guest was talking about a restaurant, and I said, I think they're known for their Edomae style sushi, and then he said, it reminds him of Kyoto style, and then the comment section was like, what is Kyoto style sushi? I don't know. So. Maybe you can. Are you wanting him to chime in on that conversation?
It was. Yeah. Is there such a thing?
I think that each region in Japan has their own different, unique bent or angles to the sushi. So, but the Edomae sushi, Edo is the old name of Tokyo. So Edomae was in front of Edo, the bay, Tokyo Bay. And so that was the beginning of the nigiri, the rice with the fish on top. And it was really Japan's first fast food because you were able to have a fish and a little bit of rice and take it to go. And so Edomae is in front of Edo Bay. So that was the origin of this nigiri sushi come 1880s or something to that effect. That was supposedly invented around that era.
Sorry, we're talking mostly food instead of your journey, but a big misconception about sushi is that it's fresh, like out of the water, caught, and like I just cut it up now and you eat it. Actually, it has no, like it's I think chewier and the flavors aren't as well developed, right? Like you have to like age it for a while. Is that true?
I guess it depends on the cut. It depends on the type of fish. So that could be true.
Yeah. But so back to your story.
Yeah.
So you're obviously a businessman. It sounds like first, right? So can you share a story of like a risk that you took early on in your journey that ended up working out well for you?
Well, I guess when I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I remember going to a Christmas party many years ago, and after I graduated college, and then my uncle would say, what are you going to do when I'm going to start businesses? And I remember one uncle said, well, I hope you have some success, but I hope you have many failures, And I said, oh, my God, everyone else is saying good luck to you. Why is he saying you have many failures? But as I look back right now, there were many, many challenges that I had, and I'm very grateful for them. One of the businesses that I had was a design firm that we were a retail consulting company, and we had about 70 employees at the time, and went through a very difficult time. We had clients in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, and in Japan and South America and so forth. And it was a very hard time getting payment from some of them. And I tell my kids and I tell my managers today that, in my opinion, the most difficult part of business is when you know that you cannot make payroll on Friday. And you just know. You have no money. The money's not coming in. And how do you look at the employees? Because you know that you either have to lay them off or tell them, hey, I don't have money for this payroll or a 20% discount. And I will never forget those days. It was 20 plus years ago when we went through those periods. And it was a very, very challenging time. And I'll never forget it. It's almost better to go out of business than to be in business and to look the employees in the face and say, I can't pay you, And so for that matter, and I remember a lot of the employees said, God, Scott never even talks to us anymore. I couldn't even talk to the employees because I knew that most likely I would have to lay them off this Friday or the next Friday. So it was a very, very challenging time, and there was one of the designers would see it all in my face. I would walk out to the floor and he'd say, okay, Kohno, what is it this time? I said, well, this and that. And the one thing he told me, which I will never forget, is he said, do you see these clouds above your head today? I said, yeah. because there's a lot, you know. He says, the one thing certain is that they will always pass, right? And I remember this to this day, because if you think that the problems are going to be here, today you think the problems are going to be here, that they're going to, it's catastrophic and it's the end of my life, end of the world. But in reality, all of the problems do pass. You know, the clouds always pass, and so the problems will. And it's the ability to really keep it into perspective and to really kind of acknowledge that the lessons that you're learning right now will help you in the future businesses and experiences.
Did you ever reach a point where you thought you were successful and you didn't have to worry about these problems?
Oh, never.
So till today,
yeah,
you agonize over these things.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah. It's where you always feel that you've got to keep the edge. You know,
Yeah.
it's something's coming, or you've got to get to the next level. And so for me, I still have that. It's not quite a paranoia, but I guess it's a drive that, you know, just tomorrow things are going to change. You know, anything can change in business. And so, and part of the things of what I've told our staff is that you've got to keep moving. You know, and there was a famous retailer who founded the Barnes & Noble chain, and his name was Leonard Riggio. And he had said that you can never copy a moving target. Because at that time, you couldn't take a picture of stores. You know, they would say, hey, let me get your camera, let me get your video camera, whatever. You know, everything was closely guarded because it was a marketing strategy that was unique to a store. And so he was very famous in saying, that's okay, you could take a picture of my store anytime you want. This is Barnes & Noble at that time. And because he knew that his store or thinking was already 2 or 3 years forward. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're copying today is like 2 years old. So I don't care. You can copy whatever, you know, you have. So I think it's that kind of thinking that's important in business, to always be looking, you know, for in the future, and keep that at least that focus that today is not the end. Today is not where it's at.
Which is partly, or I guess, why you're here today too, right? Like in this sort of experience, which is relatively new in terms of what businesses are doing to share about their story and get the word out there. Scott, who is someone in your journey who has significantly influenced you, and how did that relationship evolve?
Well, I would say one of the people is Martin Pegler. He has passed, but he was a veteran visual merchandise store design guru. He was like a maven in the retail industry. He had written 90 books during his time, and we had the chance. Every year I go to Chicago to judge the International Housewares Competition, which is a competition among like 30 to 35 stores throughout the world of the best houseware stores. Every year they're judged on store design, visual presentation, marketing, HR, financial success, and so forth, on innovation. And so it's myself, Martin Pegler when he was alive, and a couple other, my jurists, Wolfgang and Ann Kong and Henrik from Denmark. And we all judge this huge competition, you know. And it culminates in this whole, like a gala, Academy Awards gala in the Chicago Ballroom. But Martin was, I guess, a mentor, because he was the guy that was a visionary and would report on every single trend. And what I loved about Martin is that he would go out and search wherever he is. If he was traveling in Spain, he would go see retail. He would go see stores. He would be always looking, taking pictures. And at this time, he's already in his early 90s, and he's still looking at new ideas, you know. And so that, to me, as a business person, you have to always be looking at new ideas. It doesn't matter, you know, where it's coming from and where you're, and he was always interested in the newest trend. There's a guy that was in his early 90s, he was looking at all the young trends of the 20s, you know. And so very, very inspirational.
Wow. Scott, you, before the show, you know that Yama is on Las Tunas, right? But have you ever seen the location?
I think I have, but I couldn't describe it. I'm not certain. It seems that it's real close to
Thai Paradise or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just recently put this beautiful mural on a wall that has been there the whole time. And tell us about how that came about.
Well, in celebration of our 40th anniversary, which was June of this year, we wanted to create a huge, spectacular birthday celebration with Yama-san and everyone. So we thought it would be great to have a mural. And so we were very fortunate to bring in Kenta Yoshimura, who has done murals throughout the world, but in Little Tokyo, he's done a couple. And so he came and built this mural, which is Yama. It means mountain in Japanese. And so it's a big mountain and with fish and so forth. And it symbolizes the Yama. On the left side, there's a Yama California roll. And on the right, there's a boat, which is one of our businesses. It was called What Floats Your Boat. It was one of our businesses at the 626 night market. And so it signifies the joining together or the transition from Yama to our company. And so it was a big celebration. So we have this giant mural right in the back entrance.
It was quite a spectacular thing. I did get your invite, and I was out of the country.
Oh, okay.
I really wish that I could have gone. They had a tuna cutting there, like a bluefin tuna cutting, and you had two well-known chefs there.
Yeah, we did.
One is a sushi instructor, I believe, and the other is a famous YouTube chef.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
That was so, I was like, wow, this is so amazing. Just this idea to bring the community there and to have this event that I never would have thought would happen in the San Gabriel Valley. But were these your ideas?
Yeah. I mean, well, we've got a whole marketing, not just mine, but we have a whole marketing team with my daughter that heads it up, and together with some others like Kara and Erica are part of our team. And together we brainstormed these ideas. But yes, that was part of our ideas, yeah.
How did you get, I think it's Hiroyuki Takada?
Yeah.
Right? How did you get him to come?
So, well, first of all, Andy Matsuda is the main sushi instructor of LA, really. He runs the Sushi Chef Institute in Torrance. And so we contacted him because he's well known and said, hey, can you cut our bluefin tuna? And the bluefin was donated by one of our big, huge fish, right? That's a whole fish. And it's not very, very difficult to cut that big fish, it's 100+ pounds that's, on a table. And he says, of course. So he had this whole thing. And he said, by the way, my good friend Terada-san is coming through LA at that time from Miami. Do you want him to join us? Yes, of course. He's a very famous YouTuber. So on their way to Japan, he was only there for one night or 2 nights. He agreed to come. And so he helped, promote the whole 40th anniversary.
Yeah, that and you had a taiko group there.
Yeah, we had the taiko group, and so everything. It was a huge, huge festivity.
So you took over Yama after a real successful career doing other things. So you were able to bring a lot of these ideas over into your new. And do you focus on Yama now? Is that your only business, or?
Yes, 100%. 100%. So. That's correct. So somehow all these 30 years and working with retailers and food concepts all over the world, trying our own at times, led to Yama. And so it's a very interesting progression, and it is our 100% obsession, and we're just so excited about this whole venture that we're on now.
Scott, I'm interested in the process that you undertook to actually get Yama. I understand it was quite lengthy.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them. What did you bring with you today?
So today I brought my book. It's my first book. It's called Never Hire a Skinny Chef.
Okay.
And I brought a copy for both of you.
Oh, thank you.
And it's important because Martin Pegler, who I mentioned, had always asked me, he said, Scott, there you go. Actually, this is your copy, Scott.
Oh, thank you.
He said, Scott, when are you going to write your book? He's written 90 books. I said, okay, one of these years I'm going to write it, Martin. Unfortunately, Martin passed a few years ago, and I said, I've got to write my book. And I said, the deadline is going to be at Yama's 40th anniversary. So that's what prompted the whole thing. And it's called Never Hire a Skinny Chef. It's kind of a fun thing for us because we've hired many skinny chefs, and these concepts were not successful. It's not just because of that, but it became one of our catchphrases to say, hey, we can't hire a skinny chef. And it was interesting because when our business a long time ago was in Hollywood, And when we would take our clients out, there was a restaurant called Citrus in Hollywood. I remember that a long time ago.
I don't remember that.
And it was a very trendy restaurant. And when it had a whole exhibition kitchen. It was a time when they had windows so you could see inside. And I'll never forget the chef. His name is Michel Richard, very famous French chef. And I was watching him navigate to the restaurant, and he was like a conductor, conducting everything. But what he did is he tasted, it seemed like every single sauce and almost every ingredient in the entire kitchen throughout our entire dinner, And I said, how does he do that night after night, And he was not skinny, as you can imagine. He was he's a huge guy, actually. But I'll never forget that, because as we went forward and actually had quite a few unsuccessful ventures, if you want to call it that, the chefs they were skinny, And so we said, no, we got to get someone that really knows what he's doing, that eats the food, that loves the food, and is going to eat it all the time. And it's just a metaphor. We want someone that's really engaged in the business and really committed and lives it 24/7 kind of thing. And so that became our mantra. And in the book, I have various examples of my 30 years experience in retail, whether it's in Tokyo, Bangkok, all over. And it's all related to this concept of never hire. And then I ended with our recent ventures of our recent concepts of what floats your boat at the 626 night market. Then we had a concept called Sushi with Attitude during the pandemic, which is a delivery only sushi, which led to Yama Sushi Marketplace.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that in and sharing that with us.
Well, the book is really fascinating. I'm at page 27 already, but just a lot of really interesting concepts, ideas, and references. Are you selling this through Amazon? Or?
Yes, it's on Amazon. At the beginning, do this whole launch, so it qualified for a mini bestseller in certain small category.
Really?
So it was very exciting. It's my first time. I think it's one and only, but to do a book. But I wanted to kind of write down and memorialize some of our ventures and some of the things that I've seen in business. That I think is, and it's not just for the restaurants, for business in general. Yeah. One of my main mantras was the customers. You see it, I have different chapters, but the customers were $10,000. And so as I tell our managers and our employees that yes, if you understand that a customer is really worth $10,000, then you can really make a lot of decisions. Is it really worth it? If the sushi is not quite there, I'm not sure, throw it away. Look, why would you risk a $5 or $10 sushi for a $10,000 customer?
Yeah,
right?
And explain what you mean by that, because I just read that and I understand it, but explain what is a $10,000?
Yeah, so I actually have to give a diagram to show our managers that if a customer spends even as little as a few $100s a year, okay, after 3 years, that's $1,000, right? And that's only $25 a month. And most of our customers spend more than that at Yama, But $25 a month is like $300, and that's, $1,000 over 3. But if they tell 3 customers, which they do at Yama, because we're giving exceptional service and great experience, and those customers then that's all of a sudden $10,000 for that one customer, right? And it's so important to realize that. So every day when the customers come in, that's a $10,000 bill come to our door. That's how valuable it is. Would we, if you had $10,000, were you just going to let us sit there? Of course not. You just run and pick it up. But that's how valuable every single customer is. And once you agree, and it's very difficult to really believe it or acknowledge it, but once you do, then it kind of makes things, work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to get to the story of acquiring Yama because I'm really interested in that story, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Sometimes, even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh!
Their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
Initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Wormuth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with Scott Kohno of Yama Sushi Marketplace. Scott, when we come back from the break, we like to ask questions from this little card game called Icebreakers. And they're just for the audience to get to know us a little bit better. So, and you can choose to answer it or not. Here we go. What chance encounter changed your life forever?
That's a good question. There's a lot.
I'll go with one.
Okay.
So when I was working in Arcadia in LA Fitness, my teammate, my friend, Steven, brought over Scott to me. and I was just working out. And he's like, hey, he's having some issues with his shoulder. Can you look at it? And I was like, okay. And I and this led to working with Scott, and then this friendship, and then this whole, podcasting. So that was just a chance encounter that.
Yeah. And I remember that really clearly that day. It was for me also a big thing that Steve, my trainer, took me to wrestle with a question about my shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was 12 years ago, probably.
Probably, yeah.
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 Well, I guess for me, with regard to, there's been so many, but with regard to Yama's Sushi Marketplace, several years ago, I guess it was probably about 4 to 5 years ago, we were having a get-together at our house, and I was a part of the Yonsei Basketball Association. It's an exchange program, and we had a board meeting. And Roy Higashi brought over this sushi platter, very similar to what we have today. And I said, where'd you get that from? He says, oh, that's from Yama. And I said, yeah? He said, well, Yama's my stepfather. I said, oh, my God, no kidding. And he said, well, look, if Yama-san ever wants to retire, let us know, because we're in the food business. My son loves the kitchen and so forth, and we think we can maybe help him, help transition, or just help him, because we knew that he's one person doing everything. And that was the beginning of this whole Yama Sushi Marketplace.
And that leads right into the question that you had. Yeah.
Well, before I get into that, if you're watching online or listening, what chance encounter changed your life forever? Let us know in the comments. Okay, so Scott, how did you actually go about acquiring it? What was that process like?
Yeah, so Roy introduced us. Roy, his Yama's stepson, introduced us. And of course, Yama says, "Oh no, we're not ready." Oh my God, he didn't want to meet us. But the whole thing was a 6-month interview, if you can imagine. And so after Yama closed at 7 o'clock, I would sit down with them maybe 1 or 2 times a week, and we would sit on the broken refrigerator. He had a lot of broken equipment there, and we would just talk and about life, about his background in Kyoto, about my experience in Japan. And it was so fascinating because he told me his impression or thoughts about life, about business, about sushi, about everything. I learned a lot, listening to him. But he probably learned a lot about me, because he wanted to make sure that he was passing the torch to someone that could really take care of the Yama brand. And so it was a long process. At kind of like maybe 75% things, oh, no, I don't want to do it. I'm okay. So he's okay. Well, at that time, my son was actually training at the Yama just to learn and so forth. And so he said, well, I'm not sure what we're doing here. And so he said, well, just have you're okay. Just have a good time. And so, then towards the beginning of that 1 year, 3 years ago, Yama at the beginning of the year said he was so tired. He said, it's time. And so that was the beginning. He was so interested in making sure that his baby was going to be taken care of. So it was a long process.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I remember what it used to look like before, and I would say it's absolutely improved. And now I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, here's someone who's really trained in creating an interesting space. And one of the things that I think was tremendous were the refrigerators, where you can just grab the ready-made sushi and take it to go. I mean, it's incredible. And I have to ask this question because sushi in the fridge is terrible.
Yeah.
But those refrigerators must be set at just the right temperature, or something is there that they're not hard.
Yeah. So it's a fine line, because we want to make sure that we are not the supermarket sushi, we want to be very close to a regular sushi bar. So the main thing is that we are preparing the sushi every hour on the hour. We don't prepare it at 8 a.m., just leave it out all day. So it has a very short lifespan, even if it's in the refrigerator. It's true even with our West LA. If there's sushi that's been there for so long, we throw it out. We have a strict time restriction on this. And the other thing is that, yes, the refrigerators have to be not so cold, but at a good temperature for the health department. Luckily, it's moves so quickly, it allows us to turn it very, very quickly. So that's one of the key factors.
What is this about fights at the sushi refrigerator?
Yeah. So one of the issues before we came on is that there was never enough sushi, and so I remember being in visiting Yama and seeing this firsthand, where there was a long line and well, not long, maybe 5-6 people waiting for everyone to get their sushi out of the case. And then, sure enough, there'd be one guy. There would be like 8 packages of sushi left, and there'd be one guy that took all 8.
Oh,
And I remember the guy in the back said, "Well, thanks a lot, buddy. You just took all the sushi. And what are we going to do?" And they're just sitting, there's no sushi in the case. But at that time, Yama didn't have enough staff. So it was a very challenging time. So it was very well known that you got to get the sushi in time. And it was a very famous case where there was only one California roll pack left. And 2 ladies actually both grabbed it at the same time, and they actually did a tug of war, and it flew into the air, and the sushi fell on the floor. So none of them got it. So that's how much of a demand that last package was at Yama. So it was a pretty famous story.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that as well. I can attest that the sushi in the fridge is just as good as like if they had just made it. Yeah. And in particular, anything with avocado, like if I see it, it browns, right? If it's out for too long. I've never seen that there. I've never seen that in the California rolls or the avocado rolls.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So now that explains it. You guys are making it on the hour.
Yes.
Wow. I'm so hungry. I can't wait to see what is there. But so before we go on, can you talk about the expansion, to West LA and now Koreatown soon? Did they welcome it like the San Gabriel Valley welcomes or loves Yama here?
Yeah, we located to West LA. It's at the corner of National and Barrington. It's where I grew up. That's why we located there. So I know the neighborhood very well. It was interesting because their main supermarkets there is Nijia Market, Mitsuya, and Marukai, which is really Tokyo Central. So the idea was to locate right in the middle because we see ourselves as a specialty store and we don't compete based on my knowledge of retail. We're like a specialty store in between 2 department stores. So we see the department stores helping us and we help the department stores. So we located dead center in between these 3 major Japanese supermarkets. And at the beginning, it was very, very challenging. I remember when we did the kickoff, we wanted to have a very soft opening. And so at the time, soft was too soft. And we had, oh my God, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 customers in the entire day. And my wife, Wendy, was looking at the first customers coming in, and there was so few, and we literally had to throw away a lot of our sushi or move. It was a very challenging time at the very beginning of West LA. And I said, don't worry, we're going to do the promotion and 1 customer at a time. Each customers are 10,000, so we took care of each customer. But Wendy, it was so depressing. She says, I got to go home and I have to vomit. It was so depressing. Wow. She had to go home and throw up. Because it was like, I can't take it. What if it doesn't succeed? It's like, it's such a big investment. But slowly but surely we built it, and it's a huge following. It's almost the same number of customers as San Gabriel that come in on a daily basis now. It's a huge, magnet in the neighborhood. And the customers love us because we're part of the community. We don't see ourselves as a store. I mentioned this in the book. We see ourselves as kind of the home team. We're creating an environment where we have these classes like our sushi making class, and we've got our sake class every month. And so we're much different than just a regular store.
Yeah, for sure. My family was in town over the summer, and I brought them there several times. And we went before 11 o'clock, and there was a lineup outside. And I remember one time we tried to get in there like at, 5 or 6 on a Friday, just packed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely packed.
Now, it's not a restaurant, right?
No.
But it's just that those hours are the dining hours, I guess, that it's really packed.
I think people are going in there to like bring home and have,
Yeah.
a sushi or sashimi meal at home. We were going to bring sushi to like a concert in the park. So we wanted to grab some, to go.
Right. Yeah. So we've seen is that our busiest time, like in West LA, is Friday night, and so instead of spending $200 or $300 for an omakase, dinner at an expensive sushi bar, you can go to Yama and for a fraction, have your great quality sushi at a reasonable price and take it home and have and plus we have a huge sake selection now, so you can have the entire experience at your home. And why bother, that whole, with the other part of it going out. And so we see a lot of customers doing that. We have it's called Temaki Time platter. So it's build your own, it's a sushi hand roll party. And so you just buy this one platter and you can make your sushi at home and with all the ingredients. And so you could just have a fun party at home. And so, we think that there's a lot of that where people like to have their own party at home and skip all the headaches of going to a restaurant.
Yeah.
When did you open in West LA?
We opened 2 years ago.
And when are you anticipating Koreatown?
Koreatown we're in the final inspection right now with all the government agencies.
Yeah. So you're really building it.
Yeah.
It's a brand, I guess.
It's a brand, and we're
value.
growing. We think that there's a lot of benefits in growing, that it can help. We want to give our staff the ability to grow with the company, and so it's not stagnant. And it really does push ourselves to think, okay, what's next? And as we build the store, it's very important for us to know that it's something very unique and a unique experience.
I would imagine that most of the listeners to this show know what Yama is, but if you don't know, this is how I would describe it. When you go to a sushi restaurant, like a reputable one, you expect a certain quality, right? When you go to supermarket sushi or pre-made sushi, you also expect a certain level of quality, and you drop down your expectations some, right? Even if it's like at a high-end supermarket. I would say that all the sushi that I get there in sashimi is always like restaurant quality. Like I'm having a restaurant quality experience every time. And even when I take it home, they package it on ice. The way that it's cut, it is like, that's why I love Yama so much. Yeah, and I can go there, and of course the service is great, but you can expect the quality just like a restaurant when you go there, and you're taking this stuff home. That's amazing to me. Oh, Scott, we're going to move on to the final segment of the show where we get to learn what you like in the San Gabriel Valley. Scott, this is what we call the SGV3, and where we get to learn your 3 favorite places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. So what would be number 1?
Number 1 for us is, for me, is Golden Deli. Very famous pho, legendary. And although I love the pho, I think that their egg rolls are so good. It's my favorite. And so we bring it to our staff, as part of their snack and lunch. And we love their egg rolls. The daughter, T, is a baker. And so we feature her cookies in our store. And it's a huge success. She has these amazing cookies. And it's called the Dough Shop cookies. And so that's all part of the Golden Deli.
Where is Golden Deli?
They're just like a block away from us on Las Tunas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. And that place used to have I think their brother was Vietnam House. Do you remember that? It was like Caddy Corner.
Yes.
It was the same family.
Yeah, okay.
Same family, same recipes, everything, same menu almost.
So isn't that where Paris Baguette is?
It's in that plaza. It's where Katsu Sando is now.
Okay.
Yeah, Golden Deli is awesome, and their egg rolls are always like piping hot. You can't eat them right away when they come out because they'll burn you. But
it's so good.
And what was the second one?
Second would be our family favorite right there on Atlantic and Huntington is Pharaoh's Burgers.
Oh yeah.
And they've been there a long time, and it's kudos to them because, I saw them struggle even when In-N-Out opened across the street, and there's this huge line. And everyone's going to have the In-N-Out burger now. But the Pharaoh's Burger is still one of my favorite in our family. It's so good. It's a bigger, heartier burger. and I still love it. And so I still go to Pharaoh's a lot and get their zucchini sticks, and it's delicious.
Is it the same family that opened it?
I really don't know. That I don't know, but it seems like it is. I see the same guys, the same guys, family members there.
It's funny you mention that, because I watched as they developed and opened it. So that's probably been 30 years ago at least.
Oh yeah.
And I drove past that every day on my way to work, and they put a lot of time into building their store before they opened it, or their restaurant. And I would drive past it. It seemed it was like months and months and months without it opening. Wow. And I just wondered, did they already fail or what?
Oh, wow.
But you know what? I came to love that place too. It's one of my favorite hamburgers. And they just put this quality, attention to quality, which is why I think it took so long to open. They just wanted everything to be right. I mean, that must have been in the late 80s, early 90s, maybe, mid 90s. I don't remember. Yeah.
Is that at the intersection, like that strange intersection?
Yes.
It used to have Tui's.
Yes. Okay.
And then In-N-Out and Pharaoh's Burger. There's a Japanese restaurant there too.
Oh, Z Sushi.
Yeah, Z Sushi.
That's correct.
Okay.
Z Sushi. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now I have to try that.
Yeah.
I've never tried Pharaoh's Burger.
It's so good.
It's a very good burger.
Yeah, it is.
Really good quality. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for introducing us to that.
Right next to 7-Eleven there.
Yeah. And what's the third place?
The third is not a place, but it's a dear friend, Andrew Lee, which I know he's been on here, of Zinju. And the shout out to he's STV all the way. But I think it's such a great story. We sell the Zinju, his chili oil, and it's a #1 seller. And the kudos to him, because he's going up against major brands like the Momofuku and all these other major chili oil companies. And he has done such a great job. And we sell so much of that at Yama. And he's a local favorite. And I'm just so amazed at how he's really promoted the brand. Of course, he's an ex-golfer, professional golfer, and how he's so passionate that, and his product on every test that we've done is #1. So it's congratulations. So I could literally, not on the spicy one, the X is way too spicy for me, but on the OG, you stir it up, you could literally eat it right out of the jar. I can't do that because it's so much, because it's a lot of oil, but it's so delicious. It goes on anything. It goes on our sushi. It goes on burritos. It goes on anything, And so I feel that is one of my favorites of the SGV.
Yeah. You were aware that he was on our show?
Yes, I've seen him. Yeah.
And he was at your 40th, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations to Andrew. Yeah. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us. For those who don't know, I can't believe that if you live in this SGV, you don't know where Yama is, but let us know where that is and how we can get in touch with them.
Well, Yama's at 911 West Las Tunas. You go to yamasushimarketplace.com. We have a big Instagram account that has a lot of traction thanks to our marketing team. And so we've got a lot of fun stuff happening at Yama. So please visit us, our West LA and Koreatown also. So thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Another show in the books. It actually went by a lot smoother than I was thinking when I first got here today, having not been in the studio for 3 months. But I'm excited that you got to hear this story that is such a important piece of the San Gabriel Valley and learning Scott's part in that. So thank you for spending this time with us. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to like and share. And if you want to support the show in a more meaningful way, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. You can find us at MySGV on Patreon. And as always, you can find the full back catalog of episodes on our website, mysgv.net. And until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on the MySGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Scott Wormuth, directed by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers, and original music by Yone OG. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.